What's up, guys? DLE Kamell back with another video. And guys, it's that time of the year. The KC Cup just ended. We're getting R5 World in 6 days from the posting of this video. And you know, the one thing we need is a ban list. Now, everyone's been talking about this in the Duel Links community. Rise had a couple videos out on it already. And PDS will probably make one, so we wanted to make sure that you guys got all of our opinions, so we had to see who's right, who's wrong, who predicted what correctly. Now, Rai did his format where he said like what he thinks realistically will happen and what he would like to happen. But I'm going to do things a little differently here, and I hope you guys will like it. So I have what I have set up here is a ban list checklist. This is not long, but we'll get into the big stuff. This is just what I think are the things that need to be accomplished on the ban list for us to really see a new meta when Pendulum World, R5 World is introduced to Duel Links, right? Before I get into this, with this ban list checklist, I want the new cards, the new strategies to have the spotlight. Nothing that has already been meta for many months this year in 2021. I don't think that going into R5 World, it should still be at the current power that it is. There's a lot of decks that, you know, are offenders of that, and you'll see once we get into it. So, my first rule in the ban list checklist is Onomat and Thunder Dragon have the strongest consistency and best use of the extra deck and must be nerfed. And yeah, this is a no contest thing. Something that has to happen on this ban list is Onomatopoeia and Thunder Dragons both must be nerfed. We'll get into exactly what I think needs to be nerfed later, but just as a quick thing, Onomats and Thunder Dragons are far too consistent. They're able to spam out monsters and subsequent extra deck summons way more than any other deck, and it's a problem. They're making use of mechanics that no other decks can make use of. Onomat with the strongest skill in the game. No other skill works like it, has no restriction. And Thunder Dragons have just been utilizing different ranks of Xyz monsters, the best since Xyz World, since around the time it started, and it should not be the case any longer. Alright, so my second rule for the ban list is the synchro decks must be nerfed. I know, guys, you're not gonna like that, and a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but I believe the synchro decks must be nerfed. If these decks go unchecked, there will be no new meta. They must have access to semi-limits cut at the very least. So what do I mean by this? I mean Resonators and Harpies, man. Resonators and Harpies must be nerfed. If Onomats and Thunder Dragons do get hit, as I believe that they 100% should, if these following decks do not get nerfed, then they will just simply recapture their spot as tier 1 decks on the meta. Again, Resonators have a very good consistency skill, and if Onomat and Thunder Dragon go down, they will be the best deck at chain summoning along with back row. You know, they'll be running the counter traps, and Harpies is Harpies. It has the cleanest turn 1 as long as you open up 2 Harpy monsters, and it has a very powerful boss monster. And some of these other, if the other 2 decks like Onomat and Thunder Dragon, if they go away, those are 2 of these decks' biggest competition, right? Resonators and Harpies typically fall off towards the late game, and that's when Onomats and Thunder Dragons are able to capitalize on that and beat them. If Onomats and Thunder Dragons are not here, Harpies and Resonators will be the most versatile decks, and these rogue decks that are trying to compete with them will not be able to play into them in the early game or the late game. So I am a firm believer that Harpies and Resonators have to be nerfed in some significant way. They cannot be allowed to play at the level they are. And as a little preface to why I think they should be nerfed specifically is because for every single release of a summoning mechanic so far in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, there has been no viable decks for the first 3 to 4 months of the world, because the pre-existing decks in the meta are already so strong and competent. They really need to get rid of this now, because Harpies and Resonators, we've seen what they can do. They can go on absolute tears, take control of the meta, and that's all people are going to play if the new cards are unproven. So this may have more of an impact than nerfing Onomats and Thunder Dragons. I think it'll really be positive if we see Harpies, and Resonators hit as well. Okay, so this is my ban list checklist. This is what I think needs to happen. Now we're gonna go into some predictions that I have set up for you guys. They're all on screen, so we'll go through them one at a time, and then I'll break down some of the things that I didn't mention on it afterwards. All right, so let's head into it. Boom. All right, here are my ban list predictions. Now, before we get into anything, I want to say Treacherous Trap Hole over here. This is a if. I'm not gonna lie, I watched Rye's video and he did have a pretty good point for nerfing Treacherous Trap Hole, and I like to mention that before I mention anything else. Treacherous Trap Hole right now is in the spot where many of the other meta decks don't utilize it because they already have semi-limited cards in their main decks. However, decks like Resonators and Harpies, they don't have semi-limited cards on their deck list, so they can make free use of Treacherous Trap Hole. And while I do not want Treacherous Trap Hole to be banned in the new ban list, I do believe that it would be very easy for Konami to give the same reasoning that they gave for Hatronade to ban Treacherous Trap Hole. It has become clearly apparent that Konami cannot competently release cards that are better than Treacherous Trap Hole. Any deck that does not have a hard destruction effect, they run Treacherous. Any deck that has a tough time getting around big boards of monsters with good effects, they default to Treacherous. And a Treacherous ban would be nice. However, I think we would be missing a huge effect in the game to be able to clear monsters all at once. You think about it, no other archetype in the game has that kind of built-in automatically except for like Levianeer. So I think before something like this goes away, they would need to really add some more powerful deck effects. New decks have to be coming up with very powerful effects to offset the fact that we don't have Treacherous Trap Hole. So if there's one part of my prediction that you would like to throw into question, I personally don't want Treacherous Trap Hole to be banned because I think it will not really improve the game overall. They need to hit Resonators and Harpies for real. Let some other decks shine. And maybe when we get some more powerful effects, we can nerf Treacherous Trap Hole. Alright, next, you guys are not going to like me again. Lunalight Saber Dancer, I've got it here at 1. Right now, Lunalight Saber Dancer is the only card in the metagame that is untargetable by card effects. We saw the last time where this was a very powerful thing with Invoke Cocytus. Although this monster is in a different position, it is harder to get out with there being many Lunalight monsters on the limited list, but for good reason. We've seen just how much in the past weeks Lunalight can improve just off of the fact that Saber Dancer is an untargetable monster, and every other deck in the meta right now is relying on targeting effects to clear your board. Lunalights can very easily take over if Thunder Dragons, Automats, Harpies, and Resonators all get nerfed. So I do think they want to keep this deck in check as well. This is something that they've been paying attention to with the release of Tenki. They did nerf those other Lunalights before. I definitely think Lunalights is something that they're going to be looking at if they're going to hit all of the other decks that are currently stronger than it in the meta. So do not expect Lunalights to go untouched if these other decks actually see hits. Okay, semi-limited. We've got Wandering King, Wildwind, and Swallow's Nest. These are my Resonator and Harpy hits, respectively. Wandering King, Wildwind is an event card, so it's totally nerf safe. And this card really just makes the late game value and replayability of Resonators, it takes it through the roof. You're able to banish this from your grave, get your Resonator tuner whenever you need it. It essentially makes it so you only really have to have one of your mechanics in your hand, your materials in your hand at any given time. And you can easily search this off of the effect of the skill Demon's Resonance. So how am I feeling about Wandering King Wildwind? I think if you were to take any part of this deck out, it would have to be him. The Resonator monsters, of course, they're just really seeing play and they're all in boxes. Wandering King Wildwind, I do believe, outside of making your synchro summons very consistent, it does give you a lot of resources after it's initially used, and you know, that is what gives Resonators a lot of their wins in the long run, man. Just being able to reuse this card from the graveyard, keep getting resources. So if they wanted to lower their power, that would definitely be one way to keep them in check. Also restricts them from using Treacherous. Boom. Swallow's Nest for Harpies. Now for Harpies nerf, I kind of considered Harpy Oracle or Swallow's Nest, but I do believe Swallow's Nest would be way more impactful, because in the new meta, cards like Floodgate Trap Hole and Canadia are going to be very, very good again, and Swallow's Nest is Harpy's main way of dealing with flip down back row. And how many times have you guys been double Swallow's Nest and they still get their Cyber Slash out through your triple back row? Again, Harpies need a semi-limit nerf. This one will drastically hit their utility and their survivability against back row decks, man. Harpies are very good against back row decks. They run many already activatable cards from the hand in order to proc with Cyber Slash's effects, such as Forbidden Lance. I feel like the Harpies are really safe, and hitting Swallow's Nest to 2 will make them have to play a little bit more carefully, right? You will definitely prioritize having Swallow's Nest in your deck over Treacherous, because you need your monsters to be able to survive through flip down effects. So yeah, Resonators in Harpies, I know you guys might not believe me on that, but guys, I definitely believe Harpies and Resonators have to get a nerf to their core safety plays. If they are much more safer to play than any new deck that comes out in any other rogue deck, they're going to be tier 1 until a busted Pendulum deck comes out. And that is not going to be fun. Alright, Limit 3. Limit 3, I've got Thunder Dragon Roar, Aloof Lupine, Zubaba Bancho, Gagaga Coat, and Dododo Draw. So, let's talk Thunder Dragons first. We haven't talked about them yet. Aloof Lupine is definitely the next card I believe that has to go with Thunder Dragons. They hit the Lightsworn engine previously due to Thunder Dragons, you know, being able to absolutely abuse it, dump resources into the grave, banish them with Aloof Lupine, manipulate your graveyard and your banished pile to your heart's content to see the monsters that you need on the field. Aloof Lupine, even now, is putting in great work in the Thunder Dragon deck with decks that do utilize Lightsworn Engine and don't utilize Lightsworn Engine. And it's been sort of a constant that hasn't changed for the deck since its meta inception. So I definitely think it needs to go. And since Gold Sarcophagus and Charge the Light Brigade are already on the limit list, I think this needs to go to 3, along with a critical with a critical Thunder Dragon. Now, Thunder Dragon Roar, I believe, is the most important Thunder Dragon. You know, it's effect lets you summon from the deck. It gets sent back to your hand. You can use the hand effects afterwards, and it's the one that you bring out the most often to use for your rank 6 Xyz summons. So I thought about putting Thunder Dragon Dark in that position as well, but I ultimately think hitting Roar will do way more against Thunder Dragons. Right now, they are a little too out of control with the spam summoning. They're going to be able to do it way better than even Pendulum monsters, and Thunder Dragons don't have to run back row. So going into the next meta, they are looking to be a force to be reckoned with, and I definitely think a Thunder Dragon and Aloof Lupine have to go on the ban list. They need to be limited in some extra way. The Lightsworn Engine, I definitely think they do not want to make that an option for you, which is why they're going to put Aloof Lupine on the list in some way to counteract that. Okay, I've also got our automat nerf here, Zubaba Bancho, Gagaga Coat, and Dododo Draw. Zubaba Bancho is a structured deck UR, so it's a safe nerf, and Dododo Draw is a rare out of a main box. Dododo Draw is often the card that you send from your hand to your deck with the skill Automata Play, and when you don't want to send it from your hand to the deck, it is a plus, it's a draw 2, which is ultimately a +1 if you send away a Dododo, which unbricks automats a lot, man. It is crazy how many automats go from just playing on a couple cards to absolutely being able to blow you out with Dododo Draw. It is a huge comeback play, and I think putting it on the ban list along with Zubaba Bancho will do very well. Automats already have semi-limits. The semi-limits, did they do much? Not really. They made the use of auto play even more important. So now, I think if they really want to put the squeeze on automats, they have to make it so that you're considering drawing. That you have to think about your auto play target. Right now, early game, it's automatic sister. Late game, it's an automatic Gaga head, right? Throw Zubaba Bancho in the mix too for the early game. If it's on the limit list, you're going to want to draw into it via your skill if you are not running 3 copies. Now this nerf, I was thinking about afterwards, and I'm like, you know, this may not force people to get off of the coat, but I can definitely see people dropping do draw, you know, to 1 or nothing as a result of this. And I think that'll hurt Automat's draw power significantly. All right, so nerfs. Let's get into it. Cyber style. A lot of these just skill nerfs. Cyber style. A lot of people saying Cyber Dragons, it needs to get nerfed, saying the skill specifically needs to get nerfed. I was asking people on stream last week, they had a lot of good ideas, but I think that the way they need to nerf the Cyber Dragon skill is to make it so that you need to play a certain amount of Cyber Dragon monsters in your deck. Right now, I don't know if you've seen a Cyber Dragon deck list, but they got 4 Cyber Dragons and the rest are spells and traps to promote the summoning. So I definitely think they need to add a restriction clause to the skill that requires you to run more in the deck. That is the ultimate problem with it. I don't think the summoning of the Proto Cyber Dragons needs to be affected. That's kind of like what the deck does at its core. And every time that they've nerfed Cyber Dragons, they really want to keep the skill thematic, right? They don't want to make the skill unviable for Cyber Dragon decks. They still want it to do what it does and make sure it's the best skill to play in Cyber Dragon decks. And you making it so you can only fusion summon once, or you can't attack, or something like that, it really just guts the skill and guts the deck because it takes away the deck's identity. You're supposed to be able to go drop your life points to super low and then win on that turn. So I think the best way to nerf this skill would just be to force you to play more Cyber Dragon monsters in the deck to make sure that you can't just draw 1 Cyber Dragon and open a bunch of other spell traps and win the duel in 1 turn off of a 5-card combo. I think that's the biggest problem with Cyber Dragons. All right, next is the big one, Onomato Play. All right, Onomato Play. I think that they have to remove the fact that you can send automat spells and traps back to the deck in exchange for monsters. This is something that they already implemented into the game in a different sense on the skill Galaxy Photon. It forces you to send back a Galaxy of Photon monster in exchange for a Photon Galaxy spell or trap. What they need to do with this is make it so you have to send an automat monster for an automat monster, or an automat spell trap for an automat spell trap. This will make this skill a lot more cookie cutter, and it will prevent people from freely running cards like Gaga Wind and Do Draw and just being unpunished for having multiple copies of them in their deck because they can just send them off for the monster that they need. I think that this change will make it so that you have to play more monsters and less utilities so that you can Xyz summon more frequently using just your skill. Your skill should be your main fuel for Xyz summoning, and once you use Onomato Play, you should be all in with the monster you get and the other monsters that you have in play. I know that was kind of weird. I was really thinking about why I wanted that to be the nerf for automats, and I don't think it would just be good for them to absolutely gut the skill. Automats is it's a good deck, but I think with the right combination of skill and card nerfs, they can make it so that it is healthy but not just unfair to play against, in the sense that they always have every card that they need. So best thing here, make their skill less versatile, less easy to just swap out for whatever you want. Force them to run more monsters if they want more monsters. That's my onomatopoeia play Nerf. Fiend Farewell. This is a Thunder Dragon skill which allows them to dump a Fiend to the graveyard. Fiend Farewell says can be used each time one of your monsters destroyed by battle. One random Fiend type monster from your deck is sent to the graveyard. Right now, Thunder Dragons are kind of abusing this, running one Fiend Chaos Destroyer in their graveyard. It has a pretty good effect. You can summon it back, banish stuff, blah, 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 blah. It's Levianeer fodder. If Thunder Dragons do get nerfed and they see that they are going to be having trouble summoning consistently, I think Fiend Farewell is a good choice over Destiny Draw because it does give you that, you know, it gives you more monsters in the graves, gives you more materials for your boss monsters, more stuff like that. And, you know, when you think about a preemptive nerf, I definitely think that this would be a good target. I've been mentioning Fiend Farewell as something that might get nerfed for a while, and it's because right now it's not being, I don't believe it is being used as intended. They don't want you to just play one Fiend in your deck and rely on that one's effect to get you out of a sticky situation. So my nerf for this would just be, you gotta run 3 different Fiends. That's it, nothing crazy, but you can't just run one Fiend and dump it every time after a monster's destroyed by a battle. Make you run at least 3 Fiends with different names. I think that is it. All right, so that is my ban list prediction. I will quickly go through some of the other decks on the tier list on why I didn't mention them. Cyber Dragon card wise, like I said, I don't think the Cyber Dragon deck is the problem. It's already heavily limited, but they need to change the skill so that it makes you change the deck. Gaia has just come around, and they are another deck that is super abusing the TTH Book of Moon, you know, Phoenix Chain engine, but I don't believe that they are wholly consistent at all points of the game to warrant a nerf. They're very new and they have very clear weaknesses, even though they are kind of an OTK deck, you know, a deck that gets their stuff done right away and stops you from playing so they can finish you off next turn. I think there's plenty of times where they are unable to do that. Their field spell is very vulnerable, and I don't think they need a nerf at this time. All right, so another deck is the new TG with Miscellaneous Saurus Booster Raptor and Survival's End. I thought about putting Survival's End on this list along with Charge of the Light Brigade at 2 because, if you guys know, Konami does not like it when mill strategies are incorporated into the game with Charge of the Light Brigade. This is another reason why they nerfed Needlebug Nest to 1. And the TG deck does play Needlebug Nest and Charge of the Light Brigade, and those cards both are able to send Survival's End. Survival's End to 2, I could not justify putting it on this list because I don't think the TG deck is really a problem right now. It's kind of a response to the other meta decks that are around right now. So I think you hit the big decks that are the problems right now, and then we'll see how TG works out after that in the new ecosystem. All right, that's it. Long video. Thank you guys for coming. These are my ban list thoughts here. I'll show you the ban list checklist one more time. Automatic Thunder Dragon have to go. The synchro decks have to go if we want a healthy pendulum meta. We cannot be playing the same cards we were playing all this year into next year. This year was one of the most dull, boring, uninteractive, uninspired years of Duel Links. I feel like I didn't get excited about a single meta deck that came out, and I don't want to see these decks around anymore. We need to get them out of the meta so we can start playing new cards. I do not like the decks that are out right now, man. We need to get them out of here so we can spend money on new cards, baby. Let's go. All right, guys, so let me know in the comments what you want on the ban list, what you think of my ideas. Where did you think I went wrong? Did you think I was capping out of my mind? Did you think I'm smoking on that copium? Please let me know. Arc 5 World comes out next week. We're going to be giving you that Twitch coverage as soon as it comes out. YouTube videos every single day the first week of Arc 5. Every time we gather some new information, it's going to be out the second it comes out, so you do not want to miss it. Starting next Tuesday when Arc 5 World releases. Keep it here at Duel Links Entertainment. Peace out, guys. Peace and love.